Here we go, back on Sullivan Street. Chris, how are you doing today?
Welcome. It's good to be back. It's good to be. It's always good to be chatting with you, Eric. I love talking
Yes,
about this, and I'm
that's
just
another. Love talking about the Crows. Forces us to do it, having a somewhat regular schedule. And today is I don't know, the academic, the analytic episode, the communications episode, and we have a special guest. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Adam.
Hey
From
guys.
the Hi. So Dr. Adam, for those that don't know, is the host in the pop culture. He's famous as the host of the sister or one of the Sister Wives podcast, which the name of it is. Tell me, is it Sister with Professor or what is it? Sorry,
The Sister Wives Professor.
Sister
Yep, that's
Wives
me.
Professor. Sister Wives Professor. Because he's not only an expert and the doctor on the Sister Wives, but is a communications scholar and a huge Counting Crows fan. And
Absolutely.
so we will look a little in depth, I guess, from an academic philosophic standpoint about some of the what I like about this episode is we're going to talk about and enunciate and outline some of the things that are special about the Crows, but maybe fans of our podcast kind of know vaguely or internally, and we're going to say it right. We're gonna put it clear what makes this band so special. But
we're going to say the
first,
quiet parts out loud.
yes, and the unknown parts out loud. But first, Dr. Adam, and congratulations on your success on your pop culture podcast. But tell us a little bit first about your experience as a Crows fan. How did you first? I guess what was your first experience with the band, and then when would you have called yourself a super fan?
Oh, sure. So, well, it's kind of funny because I can tell you where I was. I can tell you like what time of day, everything. I was watching MTV, which is a thing we used to do. That was what we did as kids and as young people. And I was watching the Buzz Bin. And if y'all don't know what y'all listening don't know what the Buzz Bin is, was a program where we would have videos that were kind of bubbling up, that were starting to get attention. And so I'm minding my
Videos
own
or
business.
music videos in
Yes,
which
music
bands
videos.
performed songs, but with a pictures.
It was, and I don't know what I was watching. I was watching whatever music video, and like I was a music fan. I had bought a couple CDs, but it was mostly, like when you're a kid and you're getting into like soundtracks and you're kind of figuring out, because I had an older brother. I was trying to figure out, what do I like beyond what my brother or my dad listens to. And there's this video comes on and this guitar feedback, and it launches into this riff from Angels of the Silences, and it was like I've been struck by lightning. Like I have never since had a feeling hearing a song for the first time like I did that song. And I remember thinking, I don't know what this is, but this is for me. All these songs I hear all the time are for somebody, but this is for me. And that's the best way I can put it. And so I went out that month. It was probably November or so, and I bought Recovering the Satellites. I knew Mr. Jones, but I didn't know it was the same band yet. And so, of course, I bought August and Everything After like a month later once I got some more money. And like that was it. Like there was no going back. I was day one. I remember putting Recovering the Satellites in my big tape deck boombox thing on the CD player, and those opening notes of Catapult, the whistling sounds. And I was like, all right, this is it for me. And that was it. I've never wavered. I've listened to every record on day one. I love them all. I don't love them all equally, but there's not a bad record in the bunch for me. We could talk about that, but it's just been my thing. And I think as you guys and people listening to this can attest, like when this is for you and the Counting Crows are for you, like they're really for you, like really for you. And so that's me.
Right, and that's part. Yeah, thank you, and that's part of what I guess you're going to get at. And so near the end, we'll maybe talk about a little bit of some of your favorite songs and why they hit with you. But as you showed us when you were in the green room or the pre-recording, you're one of the. You're not the only, but a few we've had now of. Guests and Counting Crows fans that have tattoos to show their love and tribute to the band. It's something I did flirt with at one point, but never actually crossed the line. So, not that that's any kind of litmus test or anything. I don't want
Sure.
people to have to prove themselves that way. But yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is that, right, there's always people that contact us. Oh, yeah, we're fans of the band. But some people you can tell, yes, very much big fans. So, so let's, I guess I was looking at a couple of the topics we're going to cover. One of it, one of it is maybe, the last one maybe overall concept. Two, maybe something about fandom.
Hmm.
Let's focus on, well, even though it's the guitar that got you, and I love, by the way, you're the first person I met who got hooked on Angels, and I love that
Oh
song
yeah.
also. And what one thing that we've had fun with in this show, Chris, and even Chris and I, because we're different generations, is what was the first song you heard? And I don't think we've had anybody, Chris, that kind of said recovering was their first exposure. So that's great. We've had other people, even with Somewhere, and they love recovering the best. But yeah, so I love that because I always thought it was one of their unappreciated videos. Also, I loved it.
Oh yeah.
Um, but part of what makes Adam, of course, so unique is his songwriting, singing songwriting. So, one idea you had was to talk about the pathos and
Hmm.
identity concepts. So
Yeah.
this sounds a little. So please explain what you meant by that, and then we'll go into it.
Yeah, sure. So, at my day job, I study communication. Particularly, I study identity and the way that we communicate and the way we are communicated with and how that defines us because we can control to some degree how we're seen, but also we are sort of at the whims of what society puts parameters on of what's attractive, what's intelligent, what's good, what's bad, socially, culturally, etc. And we'll get into that with the fandom. But one of the things that I think sets Adam apart in terms of songwriting is he's got this sort of fearlessness in his approach to emotion. And you look at certain records in particular, like the early parts of like Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, where he's digging into some really darker stuff and presenting it really unapologetically. And I think that there's a lot of that in recovering as well that I, as a teenager, really connected with, not because I'd had those experiences, but I understood ugliness and or the feeling of ugliness and the feeling of frustration. And you talk about, to your point, the fact that Angels was my connection. I mean, that is such a primal scream of like, how dare of I am wrecked and I will
Right.
allow you to continue wrecking me. Like, what teenage boy doesn't feel that like to their bones, you know? Even though I hadn't been in a relationship, I had never had like any attention from a girl. Knew that angst and that feeling of like I'm just waiting for something to happen and I'm going to keep doing it even at my own expense. And there is too, and we talked off mic about the documentary and whatnot, and the documentary, of course, I think really touches well upon, you can take two paths with Adam's honesty as a songwriter. Like, you either find it really, and I'm skipping ahead, but you find it really appropriate and you appreciate it, or it's almost off putting if it's too much, like you're being too honest. And I've never had that problem. I've never had that reaction, but that pathos, that emotion, and as you mentioned too, it's the specifics, the specificity. And as a songwriter, I feel like it's almost counterintuitive where so many songwriters want to be kind of as vague as possible so you can project things onto them.
Right.
I feel like Adam does the opposite of it. I'm going to give you a name, I'm going to give you a date, I'm going to give you a place, and you don't know any of them, and yet still somehow they mean more because of it. You know, most famously
Yeah,
Maria
and
or Amy or
yeah,
any of these
and
people. Yeah.
exactly, and people feel that, oh, yes, he gets the specifics for me, even though you didn't share those specifics. I don't know how he gets away with that. I was just thinking about Virginia Through the Rain. I was just listening to it a little bit before the show, and I've spent time in Virginia. I have siblings in Virginia, and but I was thinking, yeah, even if you've never been, you could feel that you have been there, and that you still relate to the rain and everything. So yeah, I think you're spot on there.
Yeah,
So
there's
maybe
an
yeah,
interesting thing though. I think where there's an interesting thing in songwriting where there's a lot of specifics, but there's also a an openness and a sort of imagery that, to your point about like, what does that mean? What is that? There's a lot of like, my favorite song, maybe not just of the Kind of Crows, but maybe ever, is Rain King. And at the same time, while there's a lot of visual, very specific images in that song, there's also an aspect where it, it's both very obvious what that song is about and not clear at all, right? Like you could not like I couldn't really write you the story of Rain King exactly, other than in a very but that tactile feeling of like feeling a certain level of disconnection and sort of trying to connect with people but sort of not being able to get there. That's a very relatable feeling. I think a lot of people I don't think I'm alone in sort of connecting to that song on that level. Um, but it's there's a line that gets walked, I think, particularly in Adam's writing, that is very interesting in that regard because he's famously specific, right? Some of these things are famously specific, but also at the same time open enough that people are able to sort of drop themselves into it and sort of relate to the energy, even if they can't again, to use like Mr. Jones, even if you've never watched a flamenco dancer from the corner of a bar, like you get the feeling, and it's not, you know.
No,
No, that's
absolutely.
yeah.
And
I
it
was just
reminds
laughing.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
so please, no, please, Dr. Adam.
Well, it's it's not that different from Springsteen or David Bowie or these other songwriters that I think frankly get a lot more credit than Adam does in that they're telling you a story. Now, for most of Adam's career, the stories have been about him or people he knows, and then there's that pivot kind of with Somewhere Under Wonderland where he really kind of opens up and one of my favorite songs they've ever done, Palisades Park, where it's this whole complete story with a beginning, middle, and an end, right? And it's I think one of his finest works ever. But yeah, to your point, it's kind of funny, Chris, in that you don't ever hear an author get criticized of, well, why are you writing this story about these people I don't know? Because I'm going along for the ride and I can understand what you're trying to say and I can put myself into the because yeah, I don't need to see a flamenco dancer to understand hanging out with my buddy wishing girls liked us, or seeing something out of reach, because that's what that represents, right? Is the beauty you can see but you cannot access. That's the whole point, and that's the dance that he does as a songwriter, and I can get behind that. I don't like I love the band Block Party. I love that band, but if I listen to Positive Tension, I don't know what the man is talking about. I still enjoy the song, but I don't have like the connection I get when I go like St. Robinson, right? Where I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're kind of evoking. There's a girl who's finally feeling accepted by this group of people. Are they good for her or not? We don't know, but she's coming out of her show. It makes sense to me, and that to me is the bravery to not hide behind abstraction. I think is his greatest, well, one of his greatest strengths as a songwriter.
Yeah, and I think it's also you talk about like the pathos of it. Like there's a pathos mixed with optimism that I think runs through all of the records, where it's this sense of um I am not connected. I'm yearning for this thing, but I'm yearning for it in a way that suggests that I could achieve it. It's not impossible for me to achieve it. In fact, I believe that it may happen. Um, and that's why this, and maybe in some ways, this yearning feels um, sort of tangible, is because no, I really believe we can get there. I just have to be better. Or I have to figure it out, or I have to figure out how to say it. It's not that like, oh, we're all doomed, and it's not music to sort of like get depressed to in that regard.
Which is what people think it is, though. A lot of people that
S-
don't get the
Fair,
band, which
yeah.
irritates me, very much irritates me, because that's never, to your point. And also there's nothing wrong with creating art that says like I'm in pain. I feel hopeless right now. Like I enjoy that. But to your point, yeah, there's so many songs, even the darkest songs where there's like, but there's beauty in this. If there's not hope, often there's hope, but there's beauty in these breakups and these disillusions. Sullivan Street being such a great one of like pretty soon now I'm not going to come around, but he doesn't dwell on that, right? It's about the totality of that song. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot more
Well,
balance to it.
even Sullivan Street's a good example, right? Because Sullivan Street is about like this relationship's gonna end, and I'm a little bummed because like it felt like we were so close to something. Um, but at the same time, again, that's sort of not an unoptim. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
relationships don't work, right? It's this could have worked. Maybe I wish it would have, but it almost like sort of sets itself up to you think about the next one, right? That maybe the next one will. Because again, it's not that like we couldn't or it was impossible. It just it didn't. It's sort of a It's sort of realistic in that way, right? It's just that I'm almost, but I'm not there. I wish I could be. I'm almost. We're so close to being like fully in love in the way that we want to be. Um, a lot of, and actually, the thing about it's kind of a recurring theme of that first record, especially when you think
Oh
about
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
Anna Begins is that sort of thing. Rain King has a lot of that. Um, Even like Ghost Train kind of goes there. Mr. Jones in kind of a different way because that's more of a more of um, a younger man's yearning for like the pretty girl kind of thing, as opposed to, but like it kind of goes along with it. It all kind of, a lot of that ties together though with the idea of like, well, we could get there. I just haven't figured it out yet. I know I can somehow, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Eric? I've been wanting to
Yes.
ask you this. What is your relationship as a fan with like Mr. Jones right now? Because so many fans have such a complicated relationship with that song.
Um, I don't listen to it as much as I used to because I said for a while I almost thought it was like my all time favorite song. I think I put that as number one.
All right.
You know, if you look at my whole career, I don't listen to it as much, but there's some weird stuff with Mr. Jones with me. People that did not know I was a Counting Crows fan. I sang it once at karaoke, and I'm not. I love my broadcasting voice, but I do not like my singing voice. And I did Mr. Jones. People didn't know I was Counting Crows fan, and the guy was like I almost like, wow, that song is so you.
Yeah.
And then another person wrote me and said that when they were thinking that when they hear Mr. Jones, they think of me, and I had no idea I was a fan of that um, of the band. Actually, I mean, this
Wow.
was years ago. This was back in 2000, so about 10 years after the song was big. So it means personally that way. But well, you said you always said in the green room that you were in radio a bit, and I was. So there's definitely a bit of that. Like I want to be a big star, but I also appreciate that what Adam. And then look, it has. There's a couple of songs on that has that. What did we say, Chris? It has that. Well, it's a coming of age tale, right? In a lot of ways, yeah. Especially someone in their adolescence and 20s. So, and it involves, and especially men, that if you spend time in bars with your mates, right? That's what you're getting at. Even Rain King, when you're talking about the lyrics, the one that I always come because it makes me laugh, and I say it's their most genius lyric. Even I love the lyric, but it might not be the most genius, which is "She's been dying and I've been drinking." So, and
Yeah.
having that in a song because hey, we're all dying, and a lot of times, right? You had a couple of beers and you're like, yeah,
There we go.
whatever, you know,
Yeah.
and just thinking about the maybe mortality and all those things. So, but I also kind of got even back then. I think that it's weird. I guess I didn't know that when he wrote the song. I'm talking when it first hit the airwaves. Maybe I didn't know that he wasn't popular when he wrote it, right? Because I didn't know maybe they were popular,
Okay.
but I still kind of got that idea of, yeah, that not everything was going to be perfect a bit about being a rock star. So,
Because it's one of the most misinterpreted songs in popular culture. It's
oh
up there with
yeah,
like Meatloaf's "I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That." Like if you listen to the
Born in
song,
the
it's actually quite
USA.
yeah, it's actually quite clear. If you listen to the words, everything is who is Mr. Jones? It's his friend. He's hanging out with this guy.
yeah.
Like that's the funny thing is like who is Mr. Jones? Like is this not clear? Am I crazy? Like is this clearly like sorry? I will never be lonely. Everything's going to be great. Like, and Adam himself, of course, has said this dozens of times. Like, you're supposed to get that this is not true, but the subtext,
Well, especially pre-internet and pre-AI, people had like didn't know, and maybe the interviews, but people were convinced. I had a friend that didn't know I was a big Crows fan, said like, "Oh, I know what Mr. Jones is about this, but that," and of course there was jokes about it being part of his anatomy, but
yeah.
this guy had this big thing, and I was like, "That's not correct." but he was like, I knew people that knew people."
But at the same time, that was a thing. That was not a thing that the general idea of diving into the lyrics like that was not necessarily a thing that Adam discouraged, right? The idea that,
Right.
well, Maria's me, and you're like, well, what does that mean, right?
Right.
Like, and that encourages. I mean, I read an amazing essay once. I don't know, maybe it's somewhere still buried on the internet, but like a 10-page thing breaking down all of these various things to try to prove that Maria was a person and that
Oh,
Adam
I
just
think
didn't
I've
want to
seen
talk
that.
right? Where it's sort of pulling these details and like thinking about like, well, if you go to the August and everything
Yeah.
after the original song, that reference, and there's things that would sort of suggest that maybe he just doesn't really want to. She's me, but she's not. He says she's me to sort of deflect because this was like the most painful relationship that he didn't really want to talk about and describe who she was. But so I think that some of that stuff a little bit encourage someone to go, well, what is Mr. Jones? And you're like,
Yeah.
well, no, that one's just Marty Jones. He's
That's
a
Marty
person.
Jones.
There's a guy. Say hi, Marty.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Jones. It's interesting. I personally love. Still, I still love the acoustic version from
That's
Storytellers and just in general
that's
acoustic versions
me too. Yeah.
better than the
100%.
original.
100%.
I think, and I
100%.
think it's interesting because I think in part that song, and I think to me I think of that version of the song, but I think in general other people might just think of the song in terms of how they relate. I
Of
think
course.
that's one of those songs that's a little bit of a litmus test of like the hardcore, what would someone might say a real Counting Crows fan versus the other Counting Crows fans, right? Because if you're at a concert and someone goes, which they don't, it's not really a problem anymore. They play the song every night and have for the last like 5 years or so. But the number of times, you took someone to a Counting Crows concert, if they were maybe a casual fan, you're like, oh my God, they're not going to play Mr. Jones. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, they're not. And it's okay. And I kind of
No, they're
don't
not.
care. They can play it if they want, but I really, as a real fan of this band, I don't give a shit if they play
Yeah.
Mr. Jones or not. There's a lot of other songs. And in fact, if I'm picking, I'd prefer they play the acoustic version, which I love. Because I was like, we talked about Across the Wire. I really think one of the sort of dividing lines of people with this band of like, is Across a Wire, that like, if you heard that version of Mr. Jones and you were like, I love that, I'm with you. It's
Yes.
like, those are the people that have been like, well, we're here forever. Like, show us what you got. Like, we're going on this journey and we're just open to what you want to say to us. And wherever you want to go. Whereas the people who are like, I really kind of like the original one. Can you sing it like you do on the record? You're like, not that you're not a fan, because I can't take that away from
Sure.
you if you love the
Yeah, of
music,
course.
but also, you're kind of not like the same kind of fan. It's different,
Right.
I get you, Dr. Adam. You bring up something that I've thought this before and said it, but I guess I didn't realize it also applied to Mr. Jones, or I'm not making a connect. Or I never made the connection. I guess some of my favorite songs by them are what I finally heard Adam specifically say. It might have been on Kyle Meredith's interview. I don't remember now, or it might have been a couple, but he said that he understands why people don't see it this way, but that his songs are both, he used better wording, both like optimistic and pessimistic, right? They're both positive and negative. And Mr. Jones has that, right? It's very upbeat, and it has like, I want to be a star. And there's part of that, if you hear him, he thinks it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
But then it also has the negatives about like doing things for the wrong reason, and then the girls will like, you said that negative thing about the girls, and also like he knows not everybody's he might not even love himself afterwards, and all that kind of stuff. But I like those kind of songs that have a little bit of, I mean, I guess Mrs. Potter's has, right, kind of up tempo, and some both positive and negative. And of course, Possibility Days and Miami are some of the best
Yeah.
examples of that.
Miami's one of probably my top 10 for
but
sure.
Yeah, I think that might
a
be
solo
part of it. I got one
I'm struggling
thing,
to think of a counter example. I'm struggling to think of a Crow song that is purely sad without some hint of optimism. There one or two maybe you could try to sort of pull through, but I feel like the 99% of the catalog really.
I'm thinking like Speedway, maybe. That might be one.
Speedway is pretty sad.
I find your song "Goodnight Elizabeth" to be quite sad. I don't find that.
Gosh.
Goodnight Elizabeth is sad, but in that
he's
song, that
wishing
guy's
her
having
the
a good
best,
time.
though. Yeah, he's wishing her the best of like, look, I hope you're happy. I hope
Oh,
you're
right.
good.
Yeah,
the
that's
moon's
true.
a
That's true.
satellite. That's a romantic. I mean, it is devastating. But no, I'm with you, because I was raised on like, that stuff, and like that first Gin Blossoms record where it's the shimmery, upbeat guitar, and every song is an emotional gut punch. If you listen to, it's all about I'm drunk, I'm gonna die, which is where the songwriter was coming from, and unfortunately we did lose him. But I mean, so many of those songs are about like, my life is a mess, but then you're singing along in the car and everything feels great. We're going to drive around this town. But and then you listen to lyrics, it's like, I'm a drunk and a failure and I ruined our relationship. And so you get that too. Yeah. So I ask about Mr. Jones because I do think it's such an interesting litmus test in terms of your fandom, because I love the Across the Wire version. And again, you listen to that song, he's like, believe in me because I don't believe in anything. Like, this is not the most upbeat song if you dig into it. But then, you get into that acoustic version where he does that break and he goes, you should not be, and he said, you should not believe in me. And he hits every syllable in that. And I no joke, I just get chills talking about this. Like, this is a man that is in pain. And that's what makes, to me, because again, I got on board with Recovering the Satellites. So me being a teenager, pre-internet or proto-internet at the most, I thought Recovering the Satellites was a huge record. And it was, but I thought this must be
Hello, Moto.
Sorry. Yeah.
but I thought this must be massive. And again, it was a big hit, but I mean, Long December blew up huge. I remember being in art class in school and they played that on the radio over and over and over again. But Satellites is such a great counterpart to, it's one of the great all-time I became important at work and it ruined my life records. I got what I wanted. Oh no. And
Yeah.
I don't know, man, maybe I'm just blessed, but I can kind of relate to that because like I've gotten what I wanted in life and been like, as an academic, like, oh, you just want to be a professor. You just want that job. And then you get it and you go, I'm so glad I'm doing this, but it didn't fix me, And that's what I love about that record so much, is that energy.
Yeah. And, I'm thinking about the acoustic version. I'm kind of thinking about obviously at the end they do the, which I always love, the end of the Miller's Angels ending, right? Can't you hear me? Because I'm screaming.
Yeah.
And, in the context of what we're talking about here, in terms of how that song is misunderstood, it's extra. You really hits you that part that he adds to the end of that song. Can't you hear me? Like, this is pretty clear, guys. Like, I've been trying to say this to you. I've been trying to explain this. Can't you hear me? I'm screaming here at this. And the answer from a lot of people was, I honestly, actually, we can't. We're still, we still hear that song is about your dick. And,
yeah,
it's it's an interesting thing that, and I think it adds to, I never really thought about it exactly that clearly, but it's part of what adds to why that Across the Wire version and all the versions, I mean, they did that a bunch of different times and similar versions, but like, why that's so powerful is that like, it's that lack of understanding.
Right. And people treat it almost like a novelty song it's this goofy song about being famous. And it's like, damn it. Like I get personally offended. Like, no, I care about this more than I care about like certain members of my family. Okay. Like, you're going to sit down and I'm going to explain this to you. Okay. This is so foundationally important to me. And so, yeah, I love that. And I do love playing that version of the song for people because, to your point, Chris, they either get it or they go, this, I don't know. No, thank you. And fair enough, either way, to your point, I don't gatekeep fans. If you like one song, you're a Counting Crows fan. Fair enough, whatever. Like, you don't have to be me. It's fun. It's fun being this into it, but you don't have to. But yeah. But like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What do you, this kind of ties what you're getting at. I had this note when you were talking even 10 minutes ago, is that I wonder what, I guess I'm only thinking of people in our generation vaguely, because I think someone, who's, 20 years older and 30 years younger wouldn't even really maybe know the Crows that well. But what do you think, especially when it comes to Adam's, like you said, lyrics, maybe his personality a bit. I don't want to analyze him too much, but more about, I guess I want to analyze more people's reception to him, which is that why, when I hear the albums, I have empathy, and maybe it's part of that's my personality, maybe, and also I believe, and this ties into the sincerity we can talk about later, but why is it that I believe all of that, and then other people, even a lot of critics, which you want to talk about, annoyed me. And by the way, when I watched the biography, because I guess I watched it the night after we interviewed Amy Scott, so I didn't get a chance to talk to her. But as much as I really enjoyed it, and I said before the parts I loved, it talk about, like you said, defending. I almost felt like I had to defend a little brother I never had, even though I'm younger than Adam, because it also brought a lot of anger to me about people's reception to Adam and the Crows. And I,
Mm.
just like I could see why, whatever, not everybody's a Pink Floyd fan, or not everybody likes the Black Crows or whatever, or Dave Matthews, but people that, his reception of a whiner, and also that annoys me to such extent because it does not come across as whining to me ever. I don't get it. And the other thing, of course, but I think it ties into it a little bit, is when people did quote unquote criticize his dating life, and forget about like who he was with, but like, how could a girl ever like that, almost like criticizing him personally. And I was like, I think people that say, and by the way, women say that, and I think people that say that are either the men that I don't get, right, and maybe I'm the same, right? Maybe I project if I see some like meathead dating somebody or whatever, and I'm like, how could they like that guy or whatever? But I also I had the last point about that, but to me it was always so obvious. I was like, well, yeah, a guy that can write these lyrics and has his personality, which is he's both outgoing and sensitive and really smart and funny and charming. Well, of course he's going to get the girls, even if he wasn't. Like, are you out of your mind? To me, it's like they don't know women, and maybe women don't know women. So those two things made me mad. So if Adam
Yeah.
was right here, I'd give him a hug and be like, I don't understand why you get that hate, Adam. Never get it.
No, it's interesting too, because I think you hit the nail on the head. I think there's a certain amount of one you got to keep in mind, and you two know this, and anybody that knows the Crows or came up in our age know this. This also existed in a time in celebrity where that stuff still kind of could happen. Unless you're kind of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, like it's so like people care about famous people's lives, but it's so splintered. You can go on Twitter if you want and figure out anybody's dating life, but it's not so homogenized where everybody, okay, the news is Counting Crows dork is dating like the hottest woman on the planet. It was still a time where there was only so much air to take up. And so he, for whatever reason, took up that air. And I do think it's because there was there was this energy of why is this guy not staying in his lane? Why is this guy who's got the dreads and he's singing about, wanting to be famous, and which again, people didn't get the song. Oh, he must be courting these, and it's like, how is he with her? How is he? And the whole thing about dating the two women from Friends, we don't need to go there. Everybody knows the actual, specifics of not exactly, right? Not quite the way it was presented. But I think it's a lot of, and as a guy, to your point, Eric, as a guy that like I look like I just got hit by a car, and like I have a gorgeous wife. I've done very well because I'm nice, I'm creative, I know how to talk, and I'm not a dick. Like that doesn't get every girl, but man, it does pretty darn well. Like
Well, if you could play, if you could sing and write lyrics and play the piano, right, then you get a couple more, then, right?
I'm
So,
telling you,
yeah, exactly.
it's not rocket surgery over here. And so, yeah, and the guy's emotionally available. He's articulate. He can, and that's, these things are attractive, and it does irritate people because I think it's a sense of he didn't stay in his lane. And I think it was just a part of it. And it's also, once you kind of open that door, it's hard to close it narrative wise. Like from a communication standpoint, once you become the guy we pick on for dating women, then that narrative kind of gets set. And I think it just sort of stuck all
Do
through the
you,
when he was dating Henry Rossum or whomever. Like, still, I would hear this stuff sometimes.
but do you agree that
And it's
also
interesting because
ties? It's an yeah. Please, Chris.
I was saying that part of the context, though, is also the 90s, right? Like when you look at other alt rock 90s stars, there was this concern, there's always the thing of like, has this person or this band sold out, right? And so if you look at Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder, Billy Corgan, um, Rivers Cuomo, even to some extent Nolan Liam Gallagher, although that was sort of a different thing in the UK. Like we don't know who they dated. They were generally, for whatever reason, not dating super famous people. Adam sold as many records as the Counting Crow sold as many records as those people. And I think it was that context though of like, is this thing that's supposed to be indie and pure and it's like an indie rock record, but this guy is now dating these famous and being famous, hanging out at the Viper Room. He's selling out in a certain sense. which of course it's not.
Yeah.
He's just going to LA and meeting people and dating them. Like, it's not, obviously not. But I think that's a lot of the weird context of that era that I think people struggle with, because like, and to your point, then people sort of imprinted on that. If you dated famous people, it's interesting. It's weird that as I'm thinking about this, is it odd that I have loved a lot of musicians who had this problem. Big John Mayer fan, for example, people still
Mm.
talk about people John Mayer dated 20 years ago. Like, it's not really a relevant topic of conversation to, if you want to talk about John Mayer's music in 2026, but people do. And the same, I think people still say with Adam, oh yeah, he dated Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston. You're like, okay, that was 30 years ago. People graduated from college right now who were not born when that relationship occurred. So do we care? Why do we
Yeah.
care? Why is that relevant?
I don't care. I didn't care then. I don't care now. That's the thing. You asked me why do we, I don't care what brand of laundry detergent he uses either. It's not relevant to the art. It's not relevant to anything. I wish him to be happy, the same as I wish anybody he seems to be, and I'm so glad. But I wish that for the two of you. I wish that for everybody listening to this, in equal amount that I do Adam Duritz. I just want everyone to be happy. I don't care in the nicest possible way. I care in that I want good things, and however that manifests, that's all I care about. So yeah, I don't
I
know,
do
man.
think we
I've
care though
never been
with
that guy.
relationships, though, I think are always interesting thing with songwriters, particularly songs who write about romantic things, because I think there's a sort
Okay,
of
sure.
natural interest in the relationships, because they
Yeah.
sort of feed, like, you go, oh, this song is about this. You go, okay, well, that's kind of interest. That's sort of, maybe I don't care. That's not important to me exactly, but it's sort of part of the story. Like, there's certain, you can say, oh, these
Right.
songs kind of connect, right? Like Monkey and Holiday in Spain, right?
Yeah.
Reference the same person presumably there, and you're like, okay, well, that's an interesting. I'm connecting some dots there, and you go, oh, Monkey and Mercury are kind of about the same person. Okay, well, that's two sides of a relationship. That's interesting. It's not particularly relevant that that person is apparently Courtney Cox, but it's like, it's relevant that that's a relationship, and I can connect those dots, and thus
Yeah.
people sort of, you know,
And I want to say too, Adam knows what he was doing. I mean, Courtney was in that video for A Long December, and she did an incredible job. I don't know anybody that could have done it better. I mean, that video is Long December might be my favorite music video of all time. It is so much talk about pathos. There's so much emotion in that, and her performance in it. The cinematography is beautiful, but also it's not Mrs. Smith's lullaby, or it's Mrs. Potter's lullaby. And there's that acknowledgement of Monica Potter. It's in there. He's not hiding it that much. And so as much of the, oh, we shouldn't, and I just said this, so I'm talking to myself, as much as people like me go, oh, we shouldn't care, we shouldn't care. I mean, he sprinkled it in there purposely, which is his right. But I mean, there you go.
Well, and it goes back to what you said at the beginning, though, to bring it all the way back, right? Like, the not hiding aspect, the sort of bravery
Right.
of, like, I guess I could change Potter to daughter or whatever, but that's what I wrote, and it's about a person, and I'm just going to share that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but then it is tricky sometimes of then dealing with the fallout of that, to say, okay, well, now I have revealed that, and people are going to do with that what they will, and sometimes they don't always do with it the nicest possible thing, because culture is weird, and people are, have their predilections and take things in a certain direction. Like, you can, the bravery aspect, we go, oh yeah, he's sharing this thing about his life, and that's awesome, because we want to know, and we're just interested in his life as it relates to, because it relates to his music. And then other people take that to sort of use that as fodder for making jokes, and
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Although I was gonna say, although Dr. Adam, if I agree with, I know that I could tell you're a nice guy that want the best for people. Although if he was married his true love at age 21, we might not have gotten all the great angst we got on the first 5 records or whatever, or even to this day. But what we were talking about kind of dovetailed, and I guess I was kind of hinting at that, kind of dovetailed at what, to use an academics love to use that word, dovetailed into this, that of one of the other subjects that said we were going to talk about, which is like the in-group, out-group.
Yeah.
Because that kind of ties, and I'd like to hear your take, it kind of ties, like, why do some people think it's whining when I never got that? And then, of course, we've talked about before, and you happen to also be a professor, that it's, empirically proven, kind of wink, wink, that, Crows fans have high IQs. and maybe the sincerity you talked about, and at least some kind of honesty about maybe certain emotions. I don't know if angst is. I don't know if angst is a shared trait or not. Maybe not. Like, 'cause people can like Seinfeld without being like Seinfeld. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, please talk about that. Maybe some of the in group, out group of what
Yeah.
bonds fans. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's like I said earlier. I mean, if this is for you, it's really for you. And there are certainly people that just enjoy a couple songs and they're fans, and that's perfectly fine. But there's almost a defensiveness that comes with being a really big fan of this band because this band has been stigmatized. I think because they got so big. I think because especially that first record is not on paper a record designed to blow up as big as it did. I mean, nothing blows up that big, period. I mean, especially not now. But I mean, it wasn't designed to be that big, and the band wasn't fully formed yet. Like, they weren't prepared for the success. And so I do think there was some backlash that really settled in and never left. And I think as much as Satellites is one of my favorite records of all time, I think Satellites is a record that like accidentally, if you're looking to go, oh, this guy's, doesn't appreciate anything he's whining, you can find it in that record. I don't see it that way, but I think you can find that. And so I think there is definitely just sort of a big recipe for that backlash that kind of sunk in. And that, to me, entrenched fans as being protective of the band.
Right.
Like, we are not, I always say we are not possessive. We want you to love it too, but we are very protective. Like, I don't want to hear you can tell me all the live long day, I don't like that band. Fair enough. Like, you have your taste, but the misconceptions of it, or the talking about the celebrity or something, that offends me because I think, okay, but that has nothing to do with the art. You can not like the art, but the misconceptions do frustrate me. And so if you go, as I do, and join like Facebook groups for Counting Crows, you get people that are so passionate and so overwhelmingly emotional to a degree. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I love the Gaslight Anthem. I'm a big Gaslight Anthem fan, but I don't have the same kind of emotional investment I do with the Crows. And part of that is I was a teenager when I discovered the Crows, but I don't have that kind of foundational aspect of who I am. And so I do think the stigma that comes, and I don't want to overplay it because there's not that much, but we're all aware of it. I think that makes us as fans more entrenched and more protective. And I think that in turn makes the band more a part of your identity, because if you have this thing you love that you're part of an in group, and the out group is saying like this is negative, well, you can really become, you either give it up, right, or you get defensive to a degree. Because, like, I love my brother, but my brother cannot stand Counting Crows. Why? I don't know. He can't articulate it. He's like, I don't like that. I don't like that band. Matchbox 20, put it on. He says, this is great. Third Eye Blind, put it on. This is great. Counting Crows is like, oh, no. I think a girl hurt him. I'll tell you the truth. I think a girl probably broke his heart and loved that band. He'll admit it.
We'll do
But
it
I've had
sometimes.
these arguments with him where I'm like, dude, I don't know why you care then. Just don't care. Like, let me have this. This is my thing. And part of it might be little brother getting into it, because if your little brother's into something, it can't be cool. But I don't know, man. So that's a big part of it, I think, to your point, is I do think it is the protectiveness that makes me feel close. Like, if you meet a fan, like, on the street, you meet a Counting Crows, like you're my friend. I'm like, give me a hug. Like, come here. And if you like Big Star or something, I might go, hey, good for you. I love Big Star. But if it's the Crows, I'm like, oh, come here. Like, you want to hang out? Like, what's your Instagram? Like, I need to know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, part of it, I think it's part of it's the way the in group and the out group was constructed. Because Gaslight Anthem, I think, is a good example, because that's a band that sort of started small and sort of blew up, and particularly it came from a punk rock background. Because I'm a huge Gaslight Anthem fan too. I've always assumed with them I'm sort of in the out group in a sense, because it's like the in group is like the sort of like the punk rock, like we were here when we were in basements kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yes, no, yeah, I started listening to the 59 sound, and the first time I saw them was at Terminal 5. So yes, I didn't see them in a basement. Sorry, but that's like the punk rock thing of like, you know, um, if I turn a corner somewhere, you'd find a Gaslight Anthem poster on the side here. But shout out to Jeff Everett.
Well, they
But the
quoted
other
around
thing
here. They quoted
was that
around here. They quoted around here in a
quoted around
song.
here. And I love that in group in that regard. But whereas with the Crows, right, to your point, like they sort of weren't really like they had obviously some level of following in San Francisco before that, but it wasn't like they were a quiet band that blew up. They sort of blew up so quickly.
Yeah.
Like in same, I would say, weird to sort of keep going with the mayor thing, but I think he had a similar thing where he sort of shot up so quickly that then what happens is that you start with this large fan base and you whittle it away. And so you end up with this weird thing where a lot of people have been like, oh, yeah, that was a thing I used to like. And then you've got other people who are like, no, I'm still with this. And I think that creates a weird tension because you've got a lot more people like, oh, yeah, we've forgotten that. And you're like, I have not forgotten that. And so that tension, I think, is kind of a strange, it's a different relationship. It's not that you love a thing that no one's heard of, because everyone's kind of heard of the band at that point. It's you love a thing that people are like, oh, that's kind of nothing to me, or sort of just a song to me or whatever. And you're like, well, this is not just a song. So it gives you that sort of, again, to your point, that defensive relationship. I also think the nature of that sincerity and that the strong relationship we have lyrically, a lot of people to it, creates this sort of thing because it's not just, I like this band a lot that you don't, well, I like them more than you think. It's, I have this very meaningful relationship to these songs. It's very deep. Like, to use a kind of, like, my wife is a big fan of the band Hanson, right? And that's a band, sort of a similar thing again, where they blew up very quickly. They've sort of whittled away, and there's very, very hardcore fans of that band. And they're sort of defensive, but it's kind of a different thing because I think lyrically, that group is much more, I think, like musically focused. People love the music of Hanson. They obviously, a lot of them love the lyrics too. I don't want to I know a very, very big, maybe the biggest Hanson fan who's also a gigantic Counting Crows fan, who would probably tell me I'm wrong on the Hanson thing, maybe. But like, I feel there that like the relationship to those songs is different than with the Crows, where it's like, oh shoot, you don't like. If you want to understand me, you need to understand this song.
Mm-hmm.
And someone goes, oh no, that's just weird. And you're like, now you're kind of actively offending me because you're sort of throwing away what feels like sort of a piece of you because those songs
Right.
are sort of so ingrained. Um,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, and I think part of that is how sporadic the records have come out, because it's almost like you're being visited by this friend you haven't seen in forever. And every time, at least the last 3 records, I always think, well, that's gotta be it. Like, we might not ever get anything else. And then when something drops, you're like, "Oh my god." And to hear Adam's voice come back again, I remember the first time I put on Hard Candy, and I just remember hearing that opening track and feeling this joy just hearing this voice. It's like, my friend is back. I didn't know if he'd come back, but here he is. And part of that is that track, his vocals on that track, they're so pristine. I mean, that whole record is that's the whole point, right, of Hard Candy, is it's a very pristine, a little bit too much for my taste, to be honest. I love it, but it's not one of my favorites because the production is so sweet. But that's just me. But you compare that to like one of my very favorite Crows tracks ever is Hanging Around, because the whole thing just sounds filthy. Like that guitar is so like grody and sounds like beer stained carpet and cigarette butts. I'm like, yeah, man, I love brown, no, no. Gotta love it. So that's my taste. But I think part of it is like when Butter Miracle, like the complete suites dropped, I remember thinking like, I can't believe I'm getting another record from this band. And I remember thinking maybe I'm not going to like this one. But then you hear Adam doing Spaceman in Tulsa, which for my money is one of the best songs he's ever done. I mean, it's just disgustingly good. And my 9-year-old, that's his favorite song. He gets to sing the curse. He gets to sing the curse words. But we listen to it on the way to hockey practice because it pumps him up, because he's like, and he's like, Dad, what's this song about? And I'm like, well, I could have give him the sanitized version. And so it's amazing to me. Yeah. And so I think the gaps between albums make them so much more resonant because we as fans have so much time to live with what they do and unpack these songs and live with them. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's not really related to anything, but I wanted to mention it.
but see, I'm going a different direction with that though, because I think the way I fill those gaps is that I've listened to so many concerts, right? And so
Oh,
that's
sure.
I think another angle in terms of like if you're listening to tapes of the band, you know, it's interesting because again, a lot of what they do live is pretty is not pushing people too much. But like one of my favorite thing will be like, okay, there's a crazy version of Round Here, and again, if in terms of like bringing people to your side, when you're like, I've got this thing you should listen to, but before you start, okay, so it's 10 minutes long. And it's this one song, but it's also these two other songs. And what's important is that he's making up the words in the middle. The other rest of the song is the normal version, but he's going to connect these two dots. And what you've got to listen for is the way that Charlie is playing the piano that plays off the way these, and you sound like an insane person, but
Yes.
also this is what I love, like listening. If there's a particularly good version of Round Here that I'm listening
yeah.
to when I'm going through the shows,
Nothing
I'm like,
better.
that's going to make my week. You know what I mean?
Nothing better.
Like, maybe a couple of weeks if how depending on how good it is, and maybe they're doing different versions and variants, and now I've got 2 weeks worth of new versions of Round Here to listen to, so now I'm set. But it's a barrier to entry because you're kind of going like the ask that you're saying when you want
Oh
someone to
God,
come along with you is
no,
sometimes large. You know,
Chris, I was on a
it's not
date.
3 minutes long; it's 12 minutes long. You
No,
know,
I was on a date in college, and God Almighty, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to this nice girl. I'm like, no, listen, you got to listen to this one because, like, okay, this has got the private archipelago riff that he does, and then it goes into this other, and she's looking at me like, who are you? What are you doing? I'm like, just listen, no, just trust me. Just because she made the mistake of saying she was a Counting Crows fan. I was like, oh, hold on just a minute. And I go through like on my iPod at the time, going through Round Here 1, 2, 3, 7, 19, 15, 16. I'm like, okay, here we go. Because it's my favorite song of all time. So I could listen to any version of that song. Like there is no song that has ever been composed that means nearly as much to me as that song. So you could play that on a Casio making fart sounds. It's my favorite song. I don't care. It's bulletproof. You cannot wreck that song. But yeah, sorry. I just get excited. I don't have anyone else to talk to about this in my entire life. So this is very cathartic for
Well, you
me.
brought up, I know this isn't the point of your expertise about the communications and maybe how non-fans, but when we're talking about concerts, it kind of brings up like, especially in the last 15 years, maybe people who attend the concerts, where of course you're going to always get some casual people that know the name or just want to go and drink some wine or something. But where you kind of have the regulars now, but only kind of know the hits, but they're regulars and still go every year. And then you have the hardcore fans that know everything and are more obsessed with them. But because Dr. Adam, you brought up an interesting point to me, which like I felt the exact. I wasn't as cynical as you at the time about Hard Candy. I actually had more that they would still release albums every 3 years in perpetuity, which of course did not happen. But when I first heard Hard Candy, I felt the same thing, that it was an old friend, and the song is kind of a nostalgia song anyway,
Oh yeah.
right? About but it gave that great feeling, and but that's why I kind of get upset. Which again, I understand, and I understand the economics, and I understand that not everybody can, be like me, or they'd all host podcasts about the Counting Crows. But that's because, like what you're saying about the different, release dates, and they might talk about certain times of your life, and you'll identify those things. That's why, as much as I love August or this, when they play that or the same songs, I was like, oh, great. I like to, remember about me at a bar when I'm 22, but I also want to remember when I'm 35 and 45. So, or, I want to hear some of those other songs. Because to me, the Crows are all about this large narrative that is still ongoing because they're all still alive and still with us and still making music. And I don't just only want to live in that time. But
Yeah.
so sorry, a little bit of a sidestep from what you're talking about, but I do think of that because, and I think that's part of what makes them great, that these callbacks to Maria, and that there is this like longer narrative that makes like the multi-decade journey worthwhile. So
Yeah, and I'm with you where if I go see them, which I do every chance I get, I don't care if they don't play around here because I know I'll hear it some other time. I've heard it. If they want to dust off, I Mercury or whatever, like I'm there for it, because I want to hear, or like Under the Aurora, which is another one of my favorite songs they've done recently. Like it's so good. So good. And to the point that I remember listening to, I know I keep talking up Butter Miracle, but I put that on and I thought to myself, I can't believe how much I like this because I'm not trying to slag any bands, but I've had bands that I really cared about that put out tour record. You know, they put out a record to tour, and I think this is fine. This is fine. I'm glad you did it. But with the Crows, I never feel that way. Now, do I love Somewhere Under Wonderland as much as I love Satellites? Like, no, because I'm in a different point in my life. I have a different relationship with that record. But I love that record for what it is. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I want to hear, I mean, I'm sick, man. I want to hear the deep cuts. I want to hear Marjorie Dreams of Horses. No, not another Horse Dreamers Blues. I want to hear Marjorie Dreams of Horses. Like that's me. Like I'm gross. Like give it to me. I'll take whatever you got. Yeah.
Yeah, and even some of the Summer Under Wonderland songs, I'd like to hear more of them because I think some of them are great live, and I think it still brings me back to that time because I spent a lot of time listening to that record, a lot. So I do want to hear Elvis Goes to Hollywood,
Yeah.
and hear that live, right? So, um, you give us a lot to talk about, and we'll certainly when I know we didn't cover all the topics, and we certainly
That's
want to
okay.
have you back on at some point, especially because now we know you know all the albums, so maybe we can have you when we do some of the future
Anytime.
deep dives and song rankings. But
Yeah.
speaking of which, I'll throw you a bone and say for the first 5 albums only, because those are the only 5 we talked about. Can you name and maybe just give quick 30 seconds or so of what your favorite track is on each of those 5 albums, right? You know, so like starting with August and then, Recovering, Hard Candy. Sorry,
Okay.
Desert Life, Hard Candy, and Saturday Nights.
Okay.
Well, we know number one. We know
Yep.
August.
Yep. Brown here just nukes everything from space. If I had to give a second, probably Murder of One. That
Okay.
drum beat, like you hear why the label wanted that as a hit. Like that drum beat it's sick. It's disgusting. It's so good. And also it's everything good about Counting Crows. It's such an anthemic song. Satellites. Oh God Almighty, Satellites is hard. Because like I want to say Angels because that's my entry point. Oh, but also Long December might be like one of the best songs. Is one of the best songs. I know I got to go with Angels. Angels because
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
there's nothing quite like it in their whole discography. I mean, it's just got so much meat to it. Like it's crunchy and it's angry and it's, oh man, like that's like I feel like I could run through a wall when I listen to that song. Like I love that song. And as much as people, that's what I put on. We're like, oh, Counting Crows, he's the whiny guy. I'm like, listen to this asshole. Okay, you're gonna feel like you
Oh
could
yeah, I
lift.
used to say that when people used to say like, "Oh, that's like I don't even some ridiculous like '90s sissy music." I told you I think I mentioned once in the podcast I had a summer job at like a machine shop, and some kid wanted to beat me up because I liked Rain King or something, and I was like, "What do you like?" He's like, "Tool," which is true. He liked Tool, and
I'm
sure,
like, well, you're
Tool.
a tool. How about
Yeah,
that?
exactly. And Tool, okay, it's good, but I wasn't looking to fight people that like Tool. But
Yeah.
so anyway, Desert Life. What do you think?
Oh God, see, for years that was my favorite Crows record. That was my favorite. It's so consistent. It's just there's not a single song I will skip on that record. Maybe All My Friends every once in a while because it really that gets to be oof. It's heavy. Um,
I think that is a contemporary. I mean, not a contemporary. I think that is maybe the most unappreciated super song in a
yeah.
way. All My Friends, and yeah. And by the way, that's a perfect example because that's about being 35, right? Or
Mhm.
33, he says, but that's about being in your mid 30s and maybe other people. And even if you were one of the married ones, it's how people have now gone on different paths and you're
Mhm.
not all on the same path anymore. So I like hearing that song too because it's a little different than the feeling you're going to get when you're 20 and when you're 45 or whatever. So
Yeah.
how about Hard Candy?
Well, hold on. No, I didn't
Oh,
give you my
sorry.
answer.
Oh, okay.
I want probably Amy. Amy hit the atmosphere
Ah,
probably
okay. So you picked the two
today.
songs. You picked the two
Today.
songs that they almost never play live that people
It's
want
so
them to
good.
play live.
It's so
Yeah.
good. Hard Candy is easy, Miami, all day long, all day
Okay.
long. That's my favorite guitar solo. Maybe one of my favorite guitar solos, period. But that solo is so good. I'll go on and I think Emmy does it live. I don't know. I'll put it on and just fast forward to that point and just hear him play it. And oh my gosh, like I just that I don't know what it is, but that's a song. Miami is a song. Like if I wanted to introduce somebody to the band, especially when I was single, if I liked the girl, I'd be like, listen to this song. Because
Hmm.
every time I play it, for whatever reason, it's the make a circle in the sand, make a halo with your hand. Like that lyric, I don't know why. That lyric connects with everybody I've played that song for. And it's
Hmm.
very open to interpretation. Like, I hate to say it, like, I love that song, but it's not a lyric that connects with me compared to the
Right.
other ones. I mean,
Right.
but that song is so I don't know. It's to me, it's the best of that record, and that's the record I struggle with the most, in that I cherry pick the most out of Hard Candy, because the heights are so high on that one, and then there are ones that are there, and they just don't particularly move me for whatever reason. Again, I like the album. Saturday Nights and Sunday Mornings. Now that album is one that like I loved, I really really loved, and I don't revisit it as much as others. Um, Probably
Oh, by the way,
Cowboys. Probably
okay.
Cowboys.
Yeah, again, for another, well, I was thinking of the Tool guy, like, and they like, what is it? Some kind of like, you know, weak music, or girls like there's a sissy music, or and then I'm like, oh yeah, go listen to 1492 or Cowboys, right? They're
It was like
real mellow. Yeah,
being punched
real.
in the face
I
over
know,
and over and over
exactly.
again in the best way. No, I love that. Yeah, like an Adam's vocal. What I love about those two songs in particular, but Cowboys, is Adam sounds like he's fallen apart. Like his talk about emoting. That man sounds like he's just wrecked as a human being in those vocal takes. They are so good.
Yeah,
And they're
and so
not
since
pristine either.
and exactly. So the Cowboys is almost the best, and we kind of said this, but it's almost the best example of like, yeah, I guess somebody could see it as like wine. Like to me, it sounds so real, and not
Yeah,
only does it require a talent to do it, but it's so hard to do that. I think
right.
to. Hey, by the way, that breakdown, and maybe good place to start wrapping things up, but
Sure.
that that kind of, I don't know how else would say, off the deep end, or kind of this mental dislocation, I guess, of 1492 and Cowboys, in a way that's kind of a weird sequel to Mr. Jones, right?
Yeah.
Because of getting everything you want in excess, and then he hadn't been settled down by that point, and he's still like, I can still get drunk every night and be a rock star and get all the girls I want. And maybe it didn't make me perfectly happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact,
1492 is a very different bar song than Mr. Jones.
Exactly.
Also a bar song, though.
Yeah,
You know?
Mr. Jones is
That's
home with
true.
his family, enjoying a nice quiet night, and yeah, divergent paths by that point, I think you could safely say. But that's why I like, again, that just, and to loop it up, and this will be the last thing I say, but that's again
Yeah.
the bravery of the songwriting, to write something that's nasty and like about myself. It's like, no, I'm in a bad place and I'm not doing good things. But I'm going to present it to you. That takes a lot of courage, because most people would not write like that. So there you go. That's why I love it.
Well, Dr. Adam, congratulations on, of course, being a Crows fan. That's the number one. Congratulations, and
Thank
reaching
you.
out to us on the podcast. But number two,
Congratulations, making good life decisions.
yeah, for contacting us.
Tell my
But
dad, please. No, go ahead.
but on your sister wives podcast,
Yeah.
super, for those of you that are a fan of that reality TV show, and maybe some point we'll when you come back on, we'll get you to say how you started that. Is there any
Yeah.
connection to your part of your personality that likes those two things? But this podcast is super successful, and so yeah, congratulations. A couple hundred episodes in,
Yeah.
and still doing well. And we might have to do, as the early YouTube people would say, like we're kind of doing a collab, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
man.
joining our podcast, and then we will maybe join your podcast at some point. So
I'd love to, because I do, especially on my Patreon, patreon.com/the Sister Wives Professor. I do like to interview creators and just talk about their work and why they create, because like a lot of us, we don't have to do this. We love doing it.
yeah,
And so I would love to have you both on, and we can just freestyle about the Crows and your podcast and how you guys got to, like, I've heard, I know some stuff, but my
yeah,
audience, a lot of them love the Crows. And so by all means, come on and we can just chat. I'd love to have you guys on.
cool. Chris, anything else to wrap up before we?
I think that's all we got for today.
All right, thank you, and yeah, Adam, we'll get you on to do some deep dives into some of their albums and songs. So, thank you so much, and we look forward to more analysis about the Crows and the Crows fans in future episodes. Have a great day, and looking forward to having you back here with us on Sullivan Street. Goodbye.